Margaret sat in her small kitchen, staring at her phone. The words on the screen made her hands shake. Sorry, Margaret, we can't host you this Christmas. Our new house is for family who can contribute. You understand, right? We have standards to maintain now. The message came from Vanessa, her daughter in law. Margaret read it 3 times. Each time, the words hurt more. She had raised her son James alone after her husband died. She worked 2 jobs to pay for his college. She never asked for anything back. Now, after James married Vanessa 2 years ago, everything changed. Vanessa came from money. She made sure everyone knew it. Margaret lived in a small apartment. She wore simple clothes. She drove an old car to Vanessa. This meant Margaret was poor, worthless, not worth their time. Margaret set down her phone. She looked around her modest kitchen. The cabinets were old but clean. The table was scratched but sturdy. This was her home. She had nothing to be ashamed of. But Vanessa's words cut deep. Family who can contribute, as if Margaret's love meant nothing. Margaret made herself a cup of tea. Her hand still trembled as she lifted the cup. She had kept quiet for 2 years. She watched Vanessa treat her like a burden. She said nothing when Vanessa made snide comments about her clothes, her car, her home. She did this for James. She didn't want to cause problems in his marriage. But this was too much. Margaret picked up her phone again. She scrolled to her lawyer's number. Gerald had been her attorney for 15 years. He was the only person who knew the truth about her finances. Gerald, she said when he answered, I need to update my will, and I need you to deliver it personally. I think it's time my family learned the truth. James and Vanessa lived in a mansion in the nicest part of town. They bought it 6 months ago. Vanessa posted pictures of every room on social media. She loved showing off. James worked as a manager at a tech company. He made good money, but it was Vanessa's family money that bought the house, the cars, the designer furniture. Vanessa never let anyone forget it. She grew up wealthy. Her father owned a chain of hotels. Her mother came from old money. Vanessa attended the best schools. She never worked a day in her life until she took a part time job at an art gallery, which she called her passion project. When she married James, she thought she was marrying up. James was handsome, educated, successful, but his mother was an embarrassment. Margaret worked as a grocery store clerk. That's what Vanessa told her friends. It was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. Margaret did work at a grocery store, but only 15 hours a week. She liked staying busy. She liked talking to customers. Vanessa never asked why a 72-year-old woman would work such a small schedule. She never wondered how Margaret afforded her apartment, her bills, her simple but comfortable life. She just assumed Margaret was poor. Your mother called again, Vanessa told James one evening. They sat in their massive living room, drinking expensive wine. James looked up from his laptop. What did she want? The usual? Wants to know when she can visit. Wants to see us. Vanessa rolled her eyes. I told her we're busy. Vanessa, she's my mother. I know, honey, but she doesn't fit in here. You know that. Vanessa gestured around the room. Can you imagine her sitting on this couch? She'd probably worry about getting it dirty. James felt uncomfortable. He loved his mother, but he also loved his wife, and keeping peace between them was exhausting. Maybe we could take her to lunch sometime, he suggested. Maybe, Vanessa said, in a tone that meant no. Oh, I meant to tell you. I told her not to come for Christmas. James sat up straight. You what? James, be reasonable. My parents are coming. My sister and her husband. Everyone will be here. Your mother would feel out of place. I'm doing her a favor. That's not your decision to make. I already sent the message. Vanessa sipped her wine. Besides, what would she bring? She can't afford nice gifts. It would be awkward. James opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. This wasn't a fight he would win. Vanessa always got her way. He thought about his mother in her small apartment, alone for Christmas. The image made his chest hurt. But he said nothing. Gerald Morrison drove to James and Vanessa's house on a cold December morning. He carried a leather briefcase. Inside was Margaret's will and several other documents. He had known Margaret for 15 years. She was one of his favorite clients. She was kind, smart, and surprisingly wealthy, though almost nobody knew it. When she called him last week, she sounded different, hurt, angry. She told him what her daughter-in-law had said. She told him what she wanted to do. Gerald tried to talk her out of it at first. Margaret, are you sure? This will cause problems. Good, Margaret had said. It's time they knew the truth. Now Gerald stood at the massive front door. He rang the bell. A moment later, Vanessa answered. She wore yoga clothes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Can I help you? She asked, looking him up and down. I'm Gerald Morrison, attorney at law. I'm here to see James Whitmore and his wife. It's about Margaret Whitmore's estate. Vanessa's eyes widened. Estate? Is something wrong with Margaret? No, she's perfectly healthy. May I come in? Vanessa stepped aside. Her mind raced. Estate? Did this mean Margaret had some money after all? Maybe a small inheritance? James, she called up the stairs. Come down here. James appeared a minute later. He looked worried when he saw the lawyer. Is my mother okay? She's fine, Gerald assured him. I'm here on her behalf to discuss her estate planning. She thought it was time you both understood her financial situation. They sat in the living room. Gerald opened his briefcase. He pulled out several documents. Your mother wanted me to explain her assets to you, he began. Vanessa leaned forward. Assets? Yes. Margaret Whitmore currently has a net worth of approximately $43 million. The room went silent. James stared at the lawyer. That's not possible. My mother works at a grocery store. She works at a grocery store because she enjoys it, Gerald corrected, not because she needs to. Your mother is a very wealthy woman. Vanessa's face turned red, then white. 43 million? Gerald nodded. He spread the documents on the coffee table. Your mother inherited a significant sum from her own parents. She also made very smart investments over the years. She owns 3 rental properties. She has substantial stock portfolios, and she has multiple savings and retirement accounts. James picked up one of the documents. His hand shook. Why didn't she tell me? She wanted you to make your own way in life. She didn't want her money to change how you lived or who you became. Gerald paused. She's very proud of you, James. She told me so many times. Vanessa grabbed the papers. She read through them, her eyes growing wider. Properties, stocks, bonds, investment accounts. It was all real. Why are you telling us this now? James asked quietly. Gerald looked at him with sympathy. Your mother updated her will last week. She wanted me to deliver it personally and explain her decisions. He pulled out another document. Previously, Margaret planned to leave everything to you, James. The full 43 million, minus some charitable donations. And now, James whispered, now she's leaving you $50,000. The rest goes to various charities, organizations that help working mothers, scholarship funds, homeless shelters, and animal rescues. The number hit James like a punch. 50,000 out of 43 million. Vanessa jumped to her feet. That's insane. She can't do that. She can, and she has, Gerald said calmly. The will is legal and binding. But why? James asked. His voice broke. What did I do? Gerald handed him a letter. She wanted you to have this. James opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter in his mother's handwriting. He read it aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. Dear James, by now, Gerald has told you about my money. I'm sorry I never told you myself. I wanted you to build your own life, to be proud of your own success. And you did. You became a good man, a successful man. I was so proud. But something changed when you married Vanessa. You stopped visiting as much. You stopped calling. When we did talk, you seemed distant, different. I tried to understand. Marriage is hard. You were building a new life. I didn't want to interfere. Then last week, Vanessa sent me a message. She said I was too poor to visit for Christmas. She said your home was for family who could contribute. She said you have standards to maintain. James, I have been alone since your father died 30 years ago. I never remarried. I poured everything into raising you. I worked hard, yes, but not because I was poor. I worked because I wanted to teach you the value of hard work. I wanted you to see that dignity comes from who you are, not what you have. I live simply because I don't need much. I have everything I want, or I thought I did. I thought I had a son who loved me. But you let Vanessa treat me like I was worthless. You let her exclude me from your life. You never stood up for me. Not once in 2 years. The money goes to charity because I know it will do good there. The 50,000 I'm leaving you is the same amount I had when your father died. I built my fortune from that amount. If you truly are my son, you can do the same. Maybe losing this money will teach you something I failed to teach you. That people's worth has nothing to do with their bank account. I love you, James. I always will. But I'm disappointed in the man you've become. Mom, James finished reading. Tears ran down his face. The letter fell from his hands. Vanessa grabbed it. She read it quickly, her face growing redder with each line. This is your fault. She screamed at James. You should have told her I was kidding. You should have fixed this. You told my mother she was too poor to visit us, James said slowly. You uninvited her from Christmas. So what? She lives like she's poor. How was I supposed to know? You didn't care to know. You never asked about her. You never wanted to learn anything about her life. James stood up. He felt like he was seeing his wife clearly for the first time. You just assumed, and you were cruel. Don't you dare blame me. This is insane. $43 million, James. We could have had everything. We already have everything, James said quietly. We have this house. We have money. But we lost the only thing that really mattered. We lost my mother. Gerald stood up. I should go. The will is filed and legal. If you have questions, you can call my office. He headed toward the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, James, your mother cried when she changed the will. This hurt her more than it hurt you. After Gerald left, James and Vanessa stood in their beautiful living room. It suddenly felt cold and empty. You need to fix this, Vanessa demanded. Go apologize. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her whatever she wants to hear. Get that money back. James looked at his wife, really looked at her. He saw the greed in her eyes, the panic, the anger, but he didn't see any remorse. She wasn't sorry for hurting his mother. She was sorry about the money. No, he said. What? I said no. I'm not going to manipulate my mother. I'm not going to pretend to be sorry just to get money. Are you crazy? It's $43 million. It's her money. She earned it. She can do whatever she wants with it. James walked toward the stairs. I'm going to my mother's apartment alone. I'm going to apologize for being a terrible son. I'm going to beg her to forgive me, and it has nothing to do with money. If you walk out that door without promising to fix this, we're done, Vanessa shouted. James stopped. He turned around. Maybe we should be. He grabbed his coat and left. Margaret sat in her apartment, drinking tea. She heard a knock at the door. When she looked through the peephole, she saw James. Her heart ached. She almost didn't open the door, but he was still her son. Hi, Mom, James said when she opened the door. His eyes were red. He'd been crying. Hello, James. They stood there for a moment. The silence was heavy. Can I come in? He asked. Margaret stepped aside. James entered the small apartment. He looked around. He had been here dozens of times, but he was really seeing it now. The furniture was old but well made. The walls held family photos. Everything was clean and comfortable. It wasn't fancy, but it was filled with love. Gerald came to see us, James said. He told us about the money, about the will. I thought he might, Margaret said quietly. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have changed anything? Margaret asked. Would you have treated me better if you knew I was rich? James opened his mouth, then closed it. The answer should be no. He should have treated his mother with love and respect regardless of money, but he wasn't sure anymore. I read your letter, he said. You're right about everything. I let Vanessa push you away. I made excuses. I chose the easy path instead of the right one. Why? Margaret asked, her voice cracked. Why wasn't I worth fighting for? James sat down heavily on the couch. I don't know. I told myself I was keeping peace. I told myself you understood. But the truth is, I was a coward. Vanessa made me feel important, successful. I liked that feeling. And somewhere along the way, I forgot about the person who made me who I am. Tears ran down his face. I forgot about you, Mom, the woman who raised me alone, who worked so hard, who sacrificed everything. I'm so sorry. Margaret sat down next to him. Her own tears fell. I'm sorry too. Sorry I wasn't honest with you about the money. Sorry I tested you like this. No, James said firmly. Don't apologize. You were right to do it. I failed the test. I deserve to fail. They sat together in silence. Outside, the winter sun was setting. Can you forgive me? James asked. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to try to be better, to be the son you deserve. Margaret took his hand. You're my son. I'll always forgive you. But things have to change, James. Really change. They will, I promise. He paused. I think Vanessa and I are done. She was furious about the money. She wanted me to come here and manipulate you, to pretend to be sorry just to get the inheritance back. And you didn't come here for that? Margaret asked carefully. No, I came because I love you, because I've been a terrible son. The money, honestly, Mom, I don't care about the money. I just want my mother back. Margaret pulled him into a hug. They held each other and cried. It was the first real connection they'd had in 2 years. I'm not changing the will, Margaret said when they pulled apart. You understand that, right? This isn't about punishment. It's about teaching you something important. I understand. And you're right. I have a good job. I make good money. I don't need your fortune. I need you. They talked for hours that night. Really talked the way they used to before Vanessa. James told his mother about his job, his life, his mistakes. Margaret told him about her investments, her volunteer work, her quiet but fulfilling life. I'm not actually poor at all, am I? James said with a sad laugh. I have a mother who loves me. That makes me the richest person I know. Now you're learning, Margaret said with a small smile. Vanessa was waiting when James came home late that night. She sat in the dark living room like a statue. Did you fix it? She asked as soon as he walked in. There's nothing to fix, James said. He turned on the lights. My mother's will is her choice. I'm not going to try to change it. Vanessa stood up. Are you insane? Do you understand how much money that is? I understand perfectly. It's her money, not mine, not ours. But you're her son. Being her son doesn't entitle me to anything. She gave me everything already. She raised me, she loved me, she made me who I am. The money is just money. Vanessa stared at him like he was speaking another language. Just money? It's $43 million. Money you told her she didn't have enough of to be worthy of visiting us, James said coldly. You told her she was too poor. You excluded her from our lives because you thought she was beneath us. I didn't know. You didn't care to know. That's worse. James walked past her toward the stairs. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow we need to talk about our marriage. Our marriage is fine. Vanessa followed him. Stop being dramatic. So I made a mistake. I'll apologize. I'll make it right. James turned around. Will you? Will you really apologize and mean it, or will you just say whatever it takes to get the money? Vanessa's face flushed. How dare you? I love you, James. This isn't about money. Isn't it? Because the moment Gerald left, you didn't ask if I was okay. You didn't ask about my feelings or my relationship with my mother. You just screamed about the money because it's important. Not as important as people, James said. Not as important as love or family or treating people with basic human decency. He went into the guest room and locked the door. Vanessa stood in the hallway, shaking with rage. This was all wrong. Everything was falling apart. Just yesterday, life was perfect. She had her mansion, her wealthy husband, her comfortable life. Now it was all crumbling. She pulled out her phone and called her mother. Darling, her mother answered, it's late. What's wrong? Everything, Vanessa wailed. She explained what happened. The lawyer, the money, Margaret's will, James's reaction. Her mother listened quietly. When Vanessa finished, there was a long pause. So let me understand this, her mother said slowly. You told your mother-in-law she was too poor to visit your home. You uninvited her from Christmas, and you're surprised she changed her will. But I didn't know she had money. That's not the point, Vanessa. The point is you were cruel to someone based on what you thought they could give you. Do you understand how that sounds? You're supposed to be on my side. I am on your side. That's why I'm telling you that you were wrong. Very wrong. Her mother sighed. Your father and I raised you with money. Maybe we gave you too much. Maybe we didn't teach you that a person's worth has nothing to do with their bank account. Not you too, Vanessa said bitterly. James is right to be upset. If you want to save your marriage, you need to genuinely apologize to Margaret. Not because of money, because it's the right thing to do. Vanessa hung up without saying goodbye. She looked around her beautiful house. Everything was expensive. Everything was perfect. But suddenly, it all felt hollow. For the first time in her life, Vanessa wondered if she had built her entire life on the wrong foundation. Days passed. James moved more of his things into the guest room. He and Vanessa barely spoke. When they did, they argued. Christmas was 1 week away. Vanessa's family was still planning to come to the mansion, but now everything felt wrong. James sat at his office one afternoon, staring at his computer screen. He couldn't focus on work. His mind kept drifting to his mother. His phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. Would you like to come for Christmas dinner? Just the two of us. Nothing fancy. Just spending time together. James's eyes filled with tears. After everything, she still wanted him there. He texted back, I would love that. Thank you, Mom. Another text came immediately. I love you, James. Always have, always will. James texted, I love you too. See you Christmas Day. That evening, he told Vanessa, You're not coming to my family's Christmas, she said, her voice sharp. No. I'm spending Christmas with my mother, like I should have been all along. So I'm supposed to tell my parents what? That you'd rather be with your mother in her tiny apartment than here in our beautiful home? Tell them the truth. Tell them I'm spending Christmas with the person I love most in the world, the person I've been neglecting. James looked at his wife. You're welcome to come with me. My mother would probably allow it if you genuinely apologized. Apologize for what? For having standards? For being cruel? For judging someone without knowing them? For treating my mother like she was worthless? Vanessa crossed her arms. I'm not apologizing for telling the truth. Your mother did live like she was poor. She chose to live that way. She lived simply. There's a difference. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. She was comfortable in her own skin. That's something you might want to learn. Get out, Vanessa said coldly. Get out of my house. It's our house, James corrected. But I'll leave. I think we both know this marriage is over. Fine, leave, but don't expect to get anything in the divorce. My family bought this house. My family paid for most of our lifestyle. I don't want anything, James said. Keep the house, keep the cars, keep all of it. I just want my life back. The life I had before, I forgot who I was. He went upstairs and packed a bag. He grabbed clothes, toiletries, and some personal items. Everything else could wait. When he came back downstairs, Vanessa was crying. But James noticed she was still angry, not sorry. This is all your mother's fault, Vanessa said. If she had just told us about the money from the beginning, none of this would have happened. No, James said firmly. This is my fault for not being a better son, and it's your fault for being the kind of person who thinks money determines someone's worth. My mother did nothing wrong. He walked out the door. He drove to a hotel and checked in. The room was small but clean. It was nothing compared to the mansion. But James felt more at peace than he had in months. He called his mother. Hi, honey, Margaret answered. How are you? I left Vanessa, James said. Or she kicked me out. I'm not sure which. But it's over. Oh, James, I'm sorry. Don't be. You were right about everything. She only cared about money and status. When things got hard, she showed her true colors. Where are you staying? A hotel for now. I'll find an apartment soon. You could stay here, Margaret offered. I have a pull-out couch. James smiled. Thanks, Mom, but I think I need to figure some things out on my own first. I need to rebuild my life the right way this time. I'm proud of you, Margaret said softly. I know this is hard, but you're doing the right thing. They talked for a while longer. When they hung up, James felt lighter than he had in years. His phone buzzed with texts from Vanessa, angry texts, texts saying he was making a huge mistake, texts saying she would tell everyone he abandoned her. James turned off his phone and went to bed. For the first time in a long time, he slept peacefully. Christmas morning came. James woke up in his small hotel room. He showered, dressed in casual clothes, and drove to his mother's apartment. He brought simple gifts: flowers, her favorite chocolates, and a framed photo of the two of them from when he was a child. Margaret answered the door with a huge smile. She wore a simple red sweater and jeans. The apartment smelled like turkey and fresh baked cookies. "Merry Christmas, honey," she said, pulling him into a hug. "Merry Christmas, Mom." The apartment was decorated simply but beautifully. A small Christmas tree stood in the corner, covered in handmade ornaments from James's childhood. Lights twinkled in the window. Soft music played in the background. It was perfect. They cooked together, laughing and talking. Margaret told stories about James as a child. James told her about his job, his real feelings about the past 2 years, his plans for the future. "I'm going to file for divorce after the holidays," James said as they sat down to eat. "I'll find an apartment, start over." "Are you sure?" Margaret asked. "Marriage is worth fighting for." "Not this marriage. Vanessa and I want different things. I want a life built on love and genuine connection. She wants status and money. We're not compatible." Margaret squeezed his hand. "Then I support you. And you know you always have a home here with me, right? Not just the pull-out couch. I have money, James. Real money. I can help you get back on your feet." "I know, Mom, but I think I need to do this myself. You built a fortune from $50,000. You worked hard and invested wisely. I want to try to do the same, to prove to myself that I can." "You're truly my son," Margaret said with pride. "But promise me something. Promise you won't be too proud to ask for help if you really need it." "I promise." They ate dinner slowly, savoring every bite and every moment together. After dinner, they watched old movies and drank hot chocolate. They opened their simple gifts and smiled at each other. James looked around the small apartment. He thought about the mansion he'd left behind, the expensive furniture, the huge rooms, the perfect decorations. This was better. This was real. "Mom," he said suddenly, "I need to ask you something. Why did you really change your will?" Margaret thought for a moment. "I told you in the letter. Vanessa was cruel. You allowed it." "But there's more, isn't there?" Margaret nodded slowly. "Yes. I wanted to teach you something your father knew, something I forgot to teach you properly. True wealth isn't money, it's the people you love, the kindness you show, the life you build based on your values, not your bank account." She continued, "When your father died, I had $50,000 and a young son. I could have been bitter. I could have been scared. Instead, I worked hard. I made smart choices. I built a good life. But the whole time, my real wealth was you, watching you grow up, being your mother. That was the treasure." "I forgot that," James said quietly. "I got so caught up in trying to impress Vanessa, trying to fit into her world, that I forgot what really mattered. But now you remember. That's what matters." James hugged his mother. "Thank you for everything, for raising me, for teaching me, for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. I'm your mother. I'll never give up on you." They stayed up late, talking about everything and nothing. When James finally left after midnight, he felt complete for the first time in years. He drove back to his hotel with a smile on his face. He had no mansion, no expensive car, no wealthy wife, but he had his mother, he had his self respect, he had learned what truly mattered in life, and that made him richer than he'd ever been. 3 months passed. James filed for divorce. Vanessa didn't fight it. She kept the mansion, the furniture, everything. James took only his personal belongings and walked away. He found a small apartment on the other side of town. It was nothing special, but it was his. He furnished it simply, with comfortable furniture from discount stores. He hung family photos on the walls. He started visiting his mother twice a week. They had dinner together, talked about their days, and rebuilt their relationship. It was healing for both of them. James also started making changes at work. He realized he had been so focused on making money and climbing the corporate ladder that he'd lost sight of why he wanted success in the first place. He began volunteering at a local youth center, mentoring young people who came from single parent homes like he had. He found it fulfilling in a way his corporate job never was. One evening, he was having dinner at his mother's apartment when she brought up an interesting proposition. "I've been thinking," Margaret said. "I'm getting older. I'm 72 now, and I have all this money that I don't really need." "Mom, we've talked about this. The money is yours. You earned it. You should use it however you want." "I am using it how I want. I'm donating most of it to charity, like I told you. But there's something else I want to do." She pulled out some papers. "I'm starting a foundation, the Thomas Whitmore Foundation, named after your father. It will provide scholarships to children from single parent homes. It will help working mothers. It will fund financial literacy programs." James looked at the papers. "Mom, this is amazing." "I want you to help me run it," Margaret said. "Not as a job. You should keep your career if you want it, but as a board member. Someone who understands what it's like to be raised by a single parent. Someone who knows the value of hard work and education." "I would be honored," James said, his voice thick with emotion. "The foundation will have $10 million to start. I'll add more over time, and when I'm gone, the bulk of my estate will go to it." Margaret smiled. "This is my real legacy, James. Not money sitting in a bank, money that changes lives." Over the next few weeks, they worked together to establish the foundation. James discovered that his mother had been quietly donating to charities for years. She had funded scholarships, helped struggling families, and supported local businesses. She had been rich in every way that mattered, and James had been too blind to see it. One day, James ran into Vanessa at a coffee shop. She looked the same, perfectly dressed, perfectly styled, but there was something different about her eyes. They looked tired. "Hello, James," she said stiffly. "Hello, Vanessa." They stood awkwardly for a moment. "How are you?" she asked. "Good. Really good, actually. I'm working with my mom on a charitable foundation. It's fulfilling in a way I never expected." Vanessa nodded. "I heard about that. That's nice." "How are you?" James asked, genuinely curious. "Fine. The house is great. I'm still working at the gallery." She paused. "I'm actually seeing someone new, another gallery owner. He's quite successful." "I'm happy for you," James said, and he meant it. "Are you?" Vanessa looked at him searchingly. "Really?" "Yes. I hope you find what you're looking for, Vanessa. I really do." "I thought I had everything I wanted," Vanessa said quietly. "The house, the money, the status. But lately it all feels empty. My parents barely talked to me after what happened. They said I embarrassed them." James didn't know what to say. "I was wrong," Vanessa continued. "About your mother, about what matters. I see that now, but it's too late." "It's never too late to change," James said gently, "to become a better person, to learn what really matters." "Maybe," Vanessa said. She didn't sound convinced. They said goodbye and went their separate ways. James felt a twinge of sadness for her. She had everything money could buy, but she had lost something more valuable. Genuine human connection. James went home to his small apartment. He made himself dinner in his modest kitchen. He ate while reading a book. His phone rang. It was his mother. Hi, honey. Want to come over this weekend? I'm making your favorite pot roast. I'll be there, James said with a smile. Wouldn't miss it for the world. A year after the will reading, James sat in a lawyer's office. Not Gerald's office. A different lawyer was handling his divorce finalization. Everything is settled, the lawyer said. Vanessa keeps the house and most of the assets, as agreed. You leave the marriage with your personal savings and possessions. Sign here, here, and here. James signed the papers. He felt relieved. This chapter of his life was finally closed. He drove to his mother's apartment afterward. She had invited him for a celebration dinner, not celebrating the divorce, but celebrating him moving forward with his life. When he arrived, he was surprised to see Gerald Morrison there too. Gerald, what are you doing here? Your mother asked me to come, Gerald said with a mysterious smile. Have a seat, James. James sat down, confused. Margaret joined them at the table. James, Margaret began, when I changed my will, I was hurt and angry. I wanted to teach you a lesson about what really matters in life. You did, Mom. I learned it, I promise. I know you did, honey. I've watched you this past year. You've become the man I always knew you could be. You chose integrity over money. You chose family over status. You rebuilt your life with dignity and hard work. Gerald opened his briefcase and pulled out a document. Wait, James said, understanding dawning. Mom, please tell me you're not changing the will back because of me. I don't want you to. I meant what I said. I don't need your money. I know you don't need it. That's exactly why I'm doing this. Margaret took his hand. When I changed the will, I told you that maybe losing the money would teach you what I failed to teach you. But you know what? You already learned it. You proved it every single day this year. Gerald slid the document across the table. Your mother has updated her will again. You now inherit half of her estate, $21 million. The other half still goes to charity and the foundation. James stared at the paper. Mom, let me finish, Margaret said firmly. This isn't a reward. This isn't me giving in. This is me trusting you. A year ago, I couldn't trust you with this money. You would have taken it for granted. You would have let it change you, or worse, let Vanessa spend it on meaningless things. She squeezed his hand. But now I know you understand what money really is. It's a tool. It can do great things in the right hands. Your hands are the right hands, James. I don't know what to say. Say you'll use it wisely. Say you'll remember what you learned this year. Say you'll never measure a person's worth by their bank account again. I promise, James said, tears streaming down his face. All of that, I promise. Gerald spoke up. There's one condition. You must donate at least 10% of the inheritance to charity within the first year. And you must continue working either at your current job or at the foundation. Your mother wants to make sure you stay grounded. I agree. Absolutely. James looked at his mother. But, Mom, this is too much. You should enjoy this money. Travel, buy yourself nice things, live the life you deserve. Margaret laughed. Honey, I have everything I want. I have my little apartment that I love. I have my part-time job that keeps me busy. I have my volunteer work. I have enough money for anything I need. What would I do with $43 million? But besides, I'm 73 years old. How much time do I have left to spend it? I'd rather see you use it now. Watch you do good things with it. That will make me happier than any vacation or fancy car." James wiped his eyes. "Can I make a request then?" "Of course. Let me buy you a nice vacation. You and me, anywhere you want to go. We'll travel together, make memories. That would mean more to me than any amount of money." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "I would love that. I've always wanted to see Ireland. Your father's family came from there." "Then Ireland it is. We'll go in the spring." Gerald gathered his papers. "I'll file the updated will next week. James, you'll need to meet with a financial advisor. I can recommend someone excellent. Thank you, Gerald, for everything, for being patient with my mother, for delivering that first will, even though it must have been difficult. It was my pleasure. Your mother is one of my favorite clients. I'm glad this story has a happy ending." Gerald shook both their hands and left. James and Margaret sat together in silence for a moment. "You know what's funny?" James said. "A year ago, I would have been thrilled about inheriting $21 million. I would have thought about all the things I could buy, all the ways my life would change. And now? Now, I'm just grateful for this." He gestured around the small apartment. "For you, for our relationship, for the lessons I learned. The money is nice, but it's not what makes me happy. You are." "That's the real inheritance," Margaret said softly. "Not money. The knowledge of what truly matters. The wisdom to see people for who they are, not what they have. The courage to live according to your values, even when it's hard. You gave me all of that. You always did. I just forgot for a while. But you remembered. That's what counts." They made dinner together, laughing and talking. Later, as James was leaving, Margaret walked him to the door. "Mom," he said, "thank you, not for the money. Thank you for loving me enough to let me fail. Thank you for teaching me the hardest lesson in the best way possible. Thank you for being the kind of mother who cares more about who I am than what I have. Thank you for being the kind of son who learned the lesson, who chose character over comfort, who proved that I raised you right, after all." James hugged his mother tightly. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, honey. Always have, always will." James drove home to his small apartment. He thought about the past year. He had lost a mansion, a wife, and what he thought was his entire inheritance. But he had gained something far more valuable. He had gained wisdom. He had regained his mother. He had rediscovered himself. He thought about what he would do with the inheritance. He would invest wisely, like his mother had. He would donate generously. He would use the money to help others, to create opportunities, to make a difference. But he would never let it define him. He would never let it make him forget the lessons he learned in that small apartment, eating pot roast with his mother, learning that true wealth has nothing to do with money. He pulled out his phone and texted Margaret. "I'm the luckiest son in the world, not because of money, because of you." She texted back immediately. "I'm the luckiest mother in the world, not because I have money, because I have you." James smiled and set down his phone. He looked around his modest apartment. He had a comfortable couch, a small TV, photos of people he loved on the walls. He had everything he needed. And for the first time in years, he understood that having everything you need is the truest form of wealth there is. The next morning, James woke up early. He made coffee and sat by his window, watching the sunrise. He thought about his journey, from the spoiled son who took his mother for granted, to the man who lost it all, to the man who discovered what really mattered. He thought about Vanessa, still chasing status and wealth in her mansion. He thought about his mother, content in her small apartment with her simple life. He knew which one was truly rich. His phone rang. It was his mother. Good morning, honey. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about our Ireland trip. Can we go to the coast? I want to see the cliffs of Moher. We can go anywhere you want, Mom. I'll start planning it today. Wonderful. Oh, and James, one more thing. Yes, I'm proud of you. Not because you're getting money, not because you're successful. I'm proud of you because you're a good man, a man of character. That's all I ever wanted for you. James's throat tightened. Thank you, Mom. That means more to me than anything else. After they hung up, James sat quietly for a moment. Then he opened his laptop and started researching trips to Ireland. But first, he opened a new document. He began writing down his goals for the inheritance. Number 1, establish scholarship fund in mother's name. Number 2, donate to single parent family support organizations. Number 3, invest in local community programs. The list went on. Each item was about giving back, helping others, making a difference. At the bottom, he wrote one final note. Remember, money is a tool, not a measure of worth. Use it wisely. Stay humble. Never forget the lessons learned in Mom's small apartment. He saved the document and titled it, The Real Will, My Promise to Mom and Myself. James leaned back and smiled. He had been given a second chance, a chance to be the man his mother raised him to be, a chance to use his inheritance, both the money and the wisdom, to make the world a little bit better. He thought about the lawyer's visit 1 year ago, the shock, the shame, the pain. It was the best thing that ever happened to him, because sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what you truly have. And what James truly had was worth more than $43 million. He had his mother's love. He had his integrity. He had learned the difference between being rich and being wealthy. And that knowledge, that wisdom, that understanding, that was the inheritance that would last him a lifetime.